All right, welcome to the second presentation of the 2024 Open Data Day here at the City of Portland. I'm very happy to share this screen with my colleague, Matt Galport. Uh, Matt joined the city a couple of years ago, right now? Yeah, as the 311 main data analyst, and in all these couple of years, he's been doing wonders. I mean, the 311 program was starting back then, and I think it's one of these essential services for everybody in local municipalities. So with that, let me give you the mic, and please introduce yourself, and let's start the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Hector. Really excited to be here and talking about what we can do at 311 and what we're working toward in terms of open data. So I am Matt Galport. I use he, him pronouns. And as Hector said, I'm the analyst for PDX 311. So I'm going to be talking about some of the work that we're doing to make our services um, easier to access, and the services that we're doing to make city services easier to access. So what we're trying to do is take some of the work that we've been doing as 311 to make city services easier to access and apply that to data to make our data easier to access. Currently, we are not an open data team. We don't share our data fully online. We do share our data with other services who then share their data. But we are working toward being a more open data team. And I've been pushed a lot by Hector to do that. And I'm really excited about the prospects there. So I'm really eager to do that important work that Hector and others have been doing for some time now. So I'll start off with our vision as 311. So what we are, I'll get to in just a moment, but our vision is to make sure that community members can easily and effectively access local government information and services, regardless of language, ability, or resources. And I like to start off with that because it is, I think, a pretty important mission. Pretty important vision, and I'm very excited to be a part of that. And I think there are some important applications to open data there. So here's a little bit of information about how you can get a hold of us. So we are open 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we are really the front door of local government. So you can call us for pretty much anything. And I'll get into just some of the distinctions in just a second. But you can call us at 311-503-823-4000 or use the 711 Oregon Relay Service. You can email us. You can go to our website where we have a bunch of links to different services. Or you can visit us in person at the Portland building. So we staff the front desk of the Portland building from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And the text on the right sidebar is a little small, so I was just going to read it. So when you need help, who are you going to call for emergency services? So if you want to dispatch fire, ambulance, police, you can call 911. Social services, to get help accessing food, employment, or childcare assistance, you call 211. And really, we like to think for almost everything else, you can call 311 to ask a question, request assistance, report an issue related to local government within Multnomah County. So we're not just City of Portland, we serve all of Multnomah County. And really, if we don't know the answer to something or know how to take a report for you, we can get you to the person who does. So it's really, the idea is that we are at worst a switchboard, so we can get you to the services that you need. So here's sort of the problem that 311 is working to solve. And here's how a lot of folks experience the government, and how I know that I've had some of this experience myself when I've wanted to get government services, not in Portland, of course, but So so this is a person here on the left who has a request. They want to make a report, say to report an abandoned car. And they're trying to get something done. And so they do a bit of research. And I will say that abandoned autos, they do a great job. This is just an example, but the top line, they do some research online, they get some information, and they can't figure out how to make a report at all. So they just give up, and that's the top line here that leads to a dead end. Then they might do some more research, find a phone number, call, and they get a hold of somebody, and that person doesn't know what they're after. They don't know how to help them at all, and they feel really bad about it, but they just can't even direct them to the person that can help them. So that's a dead end. They do more research, they find an email address, they email, somebody gets back to them and says, here's the phone number to call. They call, and when they're talking to the person, that person realizes that their situation is actually a little bit more nuanced, that what they want to do is requires them to talk to somebody else. So then they get transferred, talk to somebody else, and that person is a little mystified about why they were contacting them. Maybe the person who was calling got a digit of the phone number wrong. It's a dead end. They do a little bit more research, they talk to the right person, they get directed to the right form, and they're all set. Which is great, but that experience is not ideal for obvious reasons. It's pretty time consuming, it can be very frustrating, and you'd be forgiven for just not giving up entirely as you go through that process. So what we're trying to do is to solve that problem where and create a single point of contact, so a single gateway to the government. And what we're also trying to do, and I'll get into in a second, is improve processes around the city to make all of the city services a little bit easier to access and easier to understand. So I'll say for this approach, this old way, pre 311, the onus is on community members to understand who does what, understand the structure of the government and who to talk to, which form to fill out, and you might hit some dead ends. And then it's also, this old way is difficult for employees at the city and county. They have to receive misdirected reports, incomplete or inaccurate information, and they can't refer reports easily to other groups, which is really frustrating. So most of the people I know who work for the city or the county really want to help. And it's very frustrating to get somebody who is asking you for help and you don't know how to help them. So 311 is hoping to solve that problem for employees as well. And we're also trying to improve the forms themselves. So the old way, the forms were static, no conditional options. They weren't standardized. They often route to a single person, so you might be out of luck if they're out of the office, and they don't allow for conversations or follow-up. Now, the new way that we're working to implement is to have a centralized front door. So you can access our services through a variety of channels. As I said, the website, 311, the phone number, or via email. And we're working toward implementing online chat and messaging. That's not available yet, but that's why that's a little dotted line there. And then we will direct you if you need to ask a question, we will try to answer your question or direct you to the person who can answer it. But usually we can answer the question. We know our staff is extremely knowledgeable about the city and about the county. And then we will direct you if you need to make a report or a request to the appropriate web form. And then that web form information gets sent to our customer service management tool, which then gets automatically routed to the appropriate group in the city or the county. And then from there, they can refer it to others. So that's the kind of experience that we're trying to enable. where if you don't have to know the inner workings of the government to access government services. So our intent is to hide the bureaucratic layers and let us deal with the complexity, so that you, as somebody who's just trying to make a request, get a parking permit, inquire about building codes, you can just call and we will direct you toward the information that you need, rather than having to scour the internet or make a bunch of false starts and dead ends. So this is also beneficial for employees to receive reports specific to their program. They can track conversations across teams, refer reports easily to other teams, and can also respond directly to the person who is making the request of the report if they need more information. And we're also working with teams to, as I said, improve their forms and their processes to make them, some of the elements, more standardized, and to make sure that every report that someone makes gets assigned appropriately. And there's often some complex routing, but we want to hide that complexity and make it very simple for the community members. And we're hoping to apply this type of model to our data. And we're not there yet, but we are working steadily toward that. And I just wanted to go into a bit of what that is going to look like. So at the moment, the data that we do collect, so if you call or you email us or you come to the front desk, we will work with you to figure out what you need and to get you some help. And we will record the date and time of that interaction, the contact channel, how you contacted us, the language that interaction is conducted in. And we collect those for any type of interaction, whether or not it's just a request for information or somebody trying to make a report. If you're trying to make a report or a request, we may ask for more information. We'll ask for location information, the details of your request, and then as the city processes that request or the county processes that request, we have some information on how that request was resolved. And we're working toward improving that resolution information. That is still a work in progress. All of this is a work in progress. But and a lot of this information comes from the 311 team member completing the appropriate web form for you. So if we can direct you to the appropriate web form, or we can just fill it out for you if you provide the information that we need. And so we'll collect all of this data as part of that conversation. So in terms of how we use the data, we are working toward applying these data principles. And this is what we're hoping to achieve as we become a more open data team. We want the data to be accessible. So we want the data to be easily discoverable online and easy to use. So not requiring any special permissions or skills to access. We want it to be comparable. We want it to be consistent with other cities and counties, the way that they collect and store and expose data. And for that, we're using Open 311 standards, which has been adopted by cities around the US and abroad. And that is just a standard of which data fields are collected and how they're shared. And then we want I would say most importantly, we want the data to be safe. So we want to protect personal and sensitive information while, of course, wanting to share open data. We really want to protect personal and sensitive information first, which is very important when you have people making reports, complaints, and making sure we're protecting people from that. So we've been doing regular security and privacy audits. We're going to continue to do that to make sure that we're adhering to the highest standards there. And finally, we want to make sure that our data is well maintained, that we have complete and accurate metadata and well-documented data management practices so that our data management practices are sustainable. So here's a very simplified look at our data pipeline. And right now we're working to test this out and make it more stable and make sure that we have thought through every bit of this pipeline, and there's nothing that we need to address before we open the data up here. So we have the same person on the left here who is contacting 311, and then we fill out a web form for them, or they fill out a web form themselves. That information goes to the customer service management tool, which then gets processed, and that can take a number of forms. Somebody from the government might contact you and ask you for more information. It's the process of resolving that request. All of that information, including all of the interactions, gets stored in a secure database on premises, and that data gets used in a number of ways. So it's used for operations directly. So for instance, graffiti cleanup, all of the reports get collected in that database and then used to prioritize graffiti cleanups. It's used for analysis, and I'll talk a little bit more about what analyses we do there. And it's used for reporting, so for making dashboards or reports. But of course, the part that's missing here is sharing that data with the community, and that's what we're working toward. So what we want to have is more on-demand access to the data in as close to raw form as possible from the database, and to reports like dashboards and other reports that do some of the analysis work for folks, so that you can explore the data without having to sift through the raw information. So here is how we are using the 311 data, and a bit about how we're hoping to use it as well. So as I mentioned, it feeds directly into operations for things like graffiti tracking, fixing potholes, things along that lines. We also use it for service optimization, for identifying which services are most in demand, what are the peak times for different types of requests. And that really allows for better allocation of resources and staff to address high priority and high frequency issues more effectively. So being able to understand how many people are going to report tree emergencies during an ice storm, for instance, is something that we can optimize with 311 data, or help to optimize. We do trend analysis, where we analyze the types and frequencies of requests over time. So city officials can identify trends and patterns, and that allows for different types of proactive measures, like scheduling extra waste pickups after the holidays, things along those lines. We are working, as I mentioned, toward having more resolution tracking. And this, we're looking at how quickly and effectively issues are resolved. So understanding response times and how those vary by service and by resolution type can highlight areas that we can improve on and lead to faster, more efficient service delivery. Infrastructure planning, and over time, what we really want to do is use 311 data to reveal systemic issues or areas that have recurring problems. So help to do things like identify the parts of the county that are most susceptible or hardest hit by flooding, for instance, so we can take proactive measures to mitigate that based on our knowledge of infrastructure needs over time from reports to 311. And finally, transparency. So as we open up our data, one of the primary reasons that I'm interested in, and the whole team is interested in opening our data, is that we want to be able to show it to everyone, so that anyone can see how our issues are being resolved and how we're resolving those issues, so that we can be held accountable for that. All right, and finally, here's where we're headed here. So we're not an open data team, as I mentioned, yet, and I wanted to present here because I'm excited about the progress that we have made, and I'm excited about the work that we're going to be doing in the near future. So we are developing our open data capabilities with a orientation toward doing no harm. So we want to solidify our policy framework and the technical infrastructure, and then we'll share the data and make sure that we are seeking feedback on our approach and modifying from there. But we want to make sure that we don't want to release data before we are very, very confident that we're doing it in the right way. So we don't want anything to be out there without that confidence. So first, we're working on the policy framework. We've been working on our data governance, everything from how to collect demographic information to storing metadata, and everything in between, our privacy and protection standards, and our data standards for how we're reporting, collecting and reporting data. And we've also simultaneously been working on our technical infrastructure, so developing our centralized storage procedures, and developing our pipeline and making sure it's stable and we're not having any inaccuracies along the data pipeline, and then identifying and sharing to our sharing platforms. And then once we release the data, which we're hoping to do very soon, we're going to be looking for testing and feedback, which is where everybody here and beyond comes in, looking to get questions and identify issues and identify any improvements that we could make. So with that, I'm going to pause for questions here, and I'm just going to leave up this screen for just a moment, if you don't mind, Hector, just to, if we're able to talk while this is up, just in case anybody wants to take down this information.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, thank you so much for this presentation, and